Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 26.6 to the public. iOS 26.6 is available around the world at the same time for everyone on all iOS 26 supported devices. Now, if you're not seeing the update, you can find it by going into your settings, going to General, and then Software Update. You should see it here. If you're still not seeing it, pull down to refresh, or go back out, go back in, and you should see it here. However, if you're running iOS 27 Beta 4 or Public Beta 2, you won't see the update as you're on a newer version. The only way to install iOS 26.6 would be to downgrade using a computer. Now, this update does include some changes as well as bug fixes and more, so if you want to jump to any specific part of the video, be sure to check out the chapters in the description. Now, the first thing they've updated has to do with preparation for iOS 27. Specifically with indexing of Spotlight Search to get it ready for the next version of iOS, where we expect iOS 27 later this year. And you can see in Apple's release here where it says this update includes bug fixes, security updates, and optimizes the Spotlight index to prepare for iOS 27. What that means specifically is that it's preparing the overall Spotlight search, all the information on your phone, getting it ready to transfer over to iOS 27 when that releases later this year. As far as anything that you can see visibly, there's not a whole lot of visible features you can see this time around. In fact, it looks like Apple is working under the hood a lot in this update, and specifically with things such as contacts. So that is one thing you could see depending on your contacts and if you're blocking contacts. So you can do that within the phone app, within the phone settings, or within the contacts app itself. So if you're blocking different contacts and you have up to 3,000 blocked contacts, you may get a new pop-up that actually says you've reached a limit and you can't block anymore. So it, of course, takes 3,000 different blocked contacts for this to show up, but if they are blocked in your block list, it will let you know you have a limit this time around. As far as any other updates, well, it looks like they haven't added it, or maybe they'll turn it on the server side. But if we go to our privacy and security settings with stolen device protection, within the code throughout the betas, it looked like Apple was going to add a new security feature where when someone tried to take your phone from your hand, if they tried to snatch it out of your hand quickly or steal your phone, it would detect that and then auto lock. It would sense that movement and then lock it automatically. However, we're not seeing this, so hopefully they add it soon, or maybe they're waiting for iOS 27 with that. As far as any other new features, well, I did see a couple splash screens in particular. One of them was in the Games app. So if I went into Games here for the first time, you'll see it popped up again where it says what's new in Apple Games. Deals and offers, never played library filter, last updated library sort, and quick launch. So that's what's new. And again, this pops up every time with this new installation. The only other message I received had to do with Safari, where it was telling me how to use tabs. So I don't know if they've just pushed that out again, making that sort of refreshed. But at this point, it looks like that's what's contained in this update as far as what we can see or the different changes they've made. Now, of course, there's bug fixes as well, and there's a couple things worth mentioning. The first thing is they fixed an issue where a region was specifically selected and how it would be applied to your device. It looks like there was a bug on the back end with that they've resolved. They've also fixed the respring bug. What I mean by that is if we press and hold on the home screen, we then tap on our widget here, tap off the widget, tap the dots at the bottom to sort of select the page we want. Prior to this update, it would completely reboot the display or respring the display and then come back to your main screen. They've now resolved that. Again, if you tap on it, tap on the bottom dots, it works every time this time around. So they have resolved that issue. It also appears that they've resolved connectivity issues with Apple CarPlay, so that seems to be working much better for people where it was disconnecting and reconnecting, or just disconnecting overall, and then of course being intermittent with Apple Music and things like that. It looks like they've resolved those issues in this update. Again, that may take a few days to measure, and we'll talk about that in the weekend follow-up, whether or not they've actually resolved that, but so far it looks like they have. As far as the wallpaper bug, it looks like the wallpaper dimming bug is finally fixed. It's nice and vibrant here. Swipe home. It doesn't desaturate a ton, and it looks nice and vibrant. So let me know if you're seeing the same thing, and hopefully this is finally resolved. As far as other bug fixes, well, they mentioned these the other day with the RC release, but this is what they've resolved. With the health kit, they've resolved a few different issues for code. Also within messages, they fixed an issue with HDR screenshots that might appear garbled when sent in messages. They've also resolved object capture, where capture and reconstruction might fail, and they've also resolved an issue with stickers, where you might be unable to create new stickers or see existing stickers when sticker data becomes corrupted. That would prevent you from using stickers, and the issue could persist to other devices that were synced via iCloud. They've also resolved some other things with StoreKit as well. So quite a few bug fixes in this update. And of course, we'll know even more after they release it, as they typically release what they've fixed with Enterprise, but they don't typically release that until after it's released to the public or the day after. So of course, I'll let you know about that in the weekend follow-up if there's additional features there. Now, of course, we expect security updates in this release. However, Apple doesn't typically publish those until after it's released to the public. So usually within a few hours, we'll see the release notes for that. And sometimes it takes a few days or longer. But you can see the last update here with iOS 26.5.2 and the other releases. And we expect quite a few security updates with iOS 26.6 as well. So definitely this is an important update with all the different security updates. But again, we'll know that in just a little bit. And I'll link those in the description below if you want to check those out. As far as releases, well, this week should be pretty much just releases of iOS 26 at this point. However, based on what we've seen in the past, we could see iOS 27 betas updated, but I would expect those to be the following week. And based off what we've seen in the past, I would expect iOS 27 beta 5 as well as public beta 3 as soon as next Monday. So maybe on August 3rd or 4th, we'll see the 5th beta. And then of course we should have weekly betas after that with a public release sometime in mid-September. Now we could see iOS 26.7 betas, however I don't really expect those since this one specifically mentions that iOS 26.6 is preparing for iOS 27. So maybe we'll see an iOS 26.6.1 if there's additional issues or security updates they need to push, but at this point this could be the last version that we see. We don't really know. So far, there's been no hints that there'll be additional releases, as Apple is really focused on iOS 27. And since iOS 27 supports all of the same devices as iOS 26, refines them and updates performance and more, I don't really see the need to stay on iOS 26, but we'll have to wait and see what they do there. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.6, if you're on iOS 26.5.2 or older, I would absolutely install it as it seems to be much, much better. Whether that's the overall scrolling speed, opening of apps, going in and out of things such as the app library with ProMotion, it seems very, very smooth. In fact, it has the refinements that you would expect from iOS 26 in the early launch time frame. It's finally gotten more refined. So whether that's going into things like weather, going in and out, RAM management seems to be better. There are occasional stutters still, but they are much improved compared to before. So you'll notice speed, refinement, and much more without any issues. And of course, liquid glass is working fine and things like that. As far as overall heat, thermals seem to be managed much better in iOS 26.6. Let's go ahead and run benchmarks. We're now using Geekbench 7, so we'll go ahead and run this and see how it heats up, see how thermals are when it's about halfway done. Now, iOS 26.6 running on the iPhone 17 Pro Max is right around 34 degrees Celsius at the hottest point. That's nice and cool compared to what we've seen before. It's much cooler than running iOS 27 as well, so it's doing quite well. Let's wait for benchmarks to finish and then we'll take a look at those. Benchmarks completed, and this is running Geekbench 7, so it's going to be a little bit different as far as the scores go. It's more representative of what iOS can actually do with the current hardware, putting it through different tasks. So just make sure if you're comparing these numbers that you're using Geekbench 7 that was newly released. So for single core, we have 3,220, and then multi-core is 8,338. Now with the previous Geekbench, we would get up to 10,000, but if you're comparing, you should have over 10,000 on that one or 8,300 or so on this version. So just keep that in mind if you're testing it out, but this is the new version going forward. Now, when it comes to overall battery life, many people have been very happy with it throughout the betas, but let's take a look at battery. Now, on this device specifically, it's going to be a little bit different as this is not my main device, but if we take a look at battery, and then we go down to battery health, this one's at 100% with only 25 cycles. But let's take a look at regular battery usage. Thanks to Cameron for sending in this battery life. This is on an iPhone 17 Pro Max running iOS 26.6, and you'll see he had 5 hours and 30 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 35 minutes of screen idle time using 57% of the battery. This should easily get him through the day, 9 to 10 hours of screen on time depending on how you're using it. And again, most people are saying that coming from iOS 26.5.2 or older, they're experiencing much better battery life, but we'll talk more about this in the weekend follow-up video after many more people have used it as well. When it comes to overall storage, let's take a look under General and then iPhone storage. Scroll to the bottom and you'll see iOS is taking up 21.97 gigabytes. This is actually quite good compared to what we're seeing with iOS 27, where we have 35.45 gigabytes here with the last betas. So again, you'll see 14.44 gigabytes for iOS compared to 16.16, and then Apple Intelligence is 7.53 compared to 19.29. So just keep in mind when you're installing an update, it's overwriting the other one. So if it's 8 gigabytes or so, it's writing over the old update, not adding to the storage. As far as system data, this goes up and down as needed. So you may see this go up to 60 gigabytes or so, maybe come back down to 2 or less. So it just depends on what's available and what it can use in the background. So that's everything with iOS 26.6. Not a huge update, but an important one with security updates, some bug fixes, and of course getting us ready for the next big update with iOS 27. Let me know how it's going for you in the comments below, and if you've noticed any differences with battery life and more, I'd love to hear from you there. And of course, if you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.